It has been about a week since my last grocery shopping trip, and aside from some leftover sweet and sour pork that I've made, I am getting pretty low on supplies in the fridge, and in fact, I have cooked everything that I planned on cooking with the ingredients that I bought. But inevitably, for all your best planning, it's not unusual to wind up with a lot of ingredients that you don't end up using in your recipes. Recipes don't always, require exactly as many peppers as you buy, exactly as much arugula as you buy, exactly as much manchego cheese as you buy, and I always end up with like little bits of leftover stuff. So towards the end of my week or 2 weeks, as it may be, I will clean out the fridge, and this time I'm going to make a clean out the fridge omelet. So I'm going to show you guys what I have like left over that didn't make it into recipes. So this arugula is probably my biggest problem. I actually don't really like arugula that much. I had to get some for, we're going through the Bob's Burgers burger cookbook and we're making every single burger in there. And I made 2 burgers this time that use arugula in them. So I needed like 2 handfuls of arugula for the burgers, and that's it. And I like arugula in salad mix, but by itself it's really intense and bitter. But I discovered that if you use a little bit of it and cook it, it's not so bad. So I needed to get rid of this. It's expensive. I want to use it, and it's good for you. I have this asparagus that is just starting to think about going slimy, so I definitely have to cook all of this today. I got this for my pound per calorie comparison video, and purely as a prop. I had absolutely no plans for it for recipes. I have since, cooked a little bit of it on the side with some rice meat in it, but I have all this left that I still need to get rid of before it goes bad, like now. I also have one of the burgers I made used manchego cheese, and I have some leftover manchego. I've been snacking on it actually a little bit, but I still have some left over. I always have bacon grease in the fridge from when I make bacon. This is some dill. I actually grew this dill. Our herbs are doing pretty well right now. Some of them are, mature enough that they can start to be harvested. Always have a little garlic on hand. My husband cooked something a few days ago, and he accidentally chopped up a whole onion when he really only needed a half, so we saved the other half of the chopped onion. So I've got, once you've processed your veggies, by the way, once you've cut them up, they start going bad a lot faster, so this needs to be used up. I also have 3 egg whites. I made a dessert that used egg yolks only. I made a cherry tiramisu a few days ago. If you have me on Facebook, by the way, you've probably seen like pictures of a lot of these things I've been cooking. And if you're one of my patrons, you saw in my secret video the actual cherry tiramisu. But anyway, used only egg yolks. I always have egg whites left over. Usually more often than not when I make a dessert, it uses more yolks than whites. I'm just not really a fan of egg whitey desserts, so leftover egg whites. I also have leftover yogurt. I got some for the beginning of my week when I had yogurt with fresh berries and ran out of berries before I ran out of yogurt, so leftover yogurt. I got these sweet peppers for a couple recipes, but I only used half the bag, so leftover sweet peppers. We love mushrooms, and we always just have some on hand, so mushrooms. And then I always have eggs on hand. I buy more eggs before I even run out of them. It's a staple that I always have, partly for this kind of purpose. And then shallot. I pretty much always have onions or shallots on hand as well. So let's make us an omelet. So I have just broken off all of these like really woodsy ends of the asparagus. And before I even start building my omelet, I'm just going to very quickly steam these and cool them. If you don't have a steamer, don't worry, because I don't have a steamer either. Usually when I steam veggies, I either will put them in a little bowl in the microwave with a little water, and then I'll cover it with a plate and I'll microwave them. But since these asparagus are too big for a cereal bowl, I'm just going to use this skillet. I've put a very shallow layer of water in here, and then once it starts simmering, I'm going to pop the asparagus in, put a lid on it, and cook it for like 1 to 2 minutes until they're just tender. Meanwhile, don't know how well you guys can see this, but this is a plate with a lip to it, and there's a little bit of water and some ice in here. Right after I cook the asparagus, I'm going to put it in here to stop the cooking process. Alright, we've got a little simmer. I'm going to put that all in an even layer. This is sort of like steam boiling. I know boiled vegetables have a bad rap, and it's because people boil them for too long when they boil them. But if you simmer them very gently like this, and so they're really steaming, it works just fine. How well you can see this, but the color should be this beautiful bright green. As you start to cook them, they will turn a beautiful bright green, and then as they get overcooked, they're going to turn this like camo puke green. You definitely want to avoid that. Overcooked asparagus is a crime against humanity. So it's been about a minute, and I'm already going to check these. Ooh, and fog up my camera lens. So a fork inserted, it should have just a little bit of resistance. These are almost done. They need like another maybe 20-30 seconds. Done. And this will preserve the green color. So with this, I'm going to make a couple dressings. One, I'm just going to make a flavorful whole milk yogurt for the top of the omelet. And then I'm also going to make a vinaigrette to dress the asparagus. I didn't show this in the opening shot, but I also always have lemons on hand. So I got lemon zest, pulverized garlic, a minced dill, half of this very tiny shallot. I'll find a use for the other half of it, and some black pepper, olive oil. So for the vinaigrette, I'm going to put half of the lemon zest in the vinaigrette and the other half of it in this yogurt topping. I'm going to put all of the shallot in the vinaigrette, all of the garlic in the yogurt topping. And I'm going to put half of the dill in the vinaigrette and the other half of it in the yogurt topping. If you don't like dill, I feel sorry for you, but you could always use fresh parsley or nothing at all. This is, the whole idea of this is using up what you happen to have. And I happen to be growing dill, so that's why I'm using it. I'm going to season both of them with a little black pepper and a little salt. This off camera because it's a hassle to hold the camera while doing so, but I put the juice of the whole lemon and then about a tablespoon and a half of olive oil. Now, if you wanted to be proper and chefy, you'd slowly drizzle the olive oil in so you have this emulsified dressing. But it actually kind of emulsifies anyway. See how it's come together? If you really want to emulsify this like the easy way, do this in a Tupperware container with a strong lid and just shake it like really vigorously, and that will also do the trick. You don't have to be as careful as chefs say you have to when you make salad dressings. It's okay if your salad dressing isn't emulsified too. In fact, some people prefer what they call broken salad dressings. But anyway, this is the dressing for the asparagus. It's done. And just going to give the yogurt a little stir. So this yogurt, since it's been sitting around for a week, it's a lot of the whey has come out of it. So this is sort of like strained yogurt. If you don't know about strained yogurt, if you don't like sour cream, whole milk yogurt is a great alternative because it's quite creamy, just like sour cream, but not gross like sour cream. Anyway, the yogurt's done. I'm just going to pop that in the fridge. And the whole theme of this is getting rid of stuff, so I just chopped up the rest of that half of a shallot, and I'm just going to add it to the omelet mix because that makes sense. I've got about 2 tablespoons of bacon grease in here, heating up to medium-high heat. I have my pound of mushrooms cut up. This might look like a lot. It's for 2 omelets, and it's going to cook down to almost nothing. Mushrooms are mostly water, and then I have about half of what was left of the 5-pound bag of peppers. So this is probably about a pound, maybe, of peppers. And again, this looks like a lot, but it's going to cook down quite a bit. And then the chopped up onion and shallot, and then I've just sliced the manchego into thinner slices so it'll melt quickly. And then I also do have my eggs and the 3 egg whites and 6 whole eggs, and I'm going to give this a very, very thorough beating. You want to beat this for like a good 2 minutes to make sure all of the whites and yolks, especially since I have extra whites in here, just to make sure it's all thoroughly combined and homogenized. I would ordinarily use a mighty fork for the task of whisking these eggs, but since I really want to make sure they're thoroughly combined, a mighty whisk. Incidentally, this is all of the eggs for 2 omelets. I didn't want it to be so egg whitey, so I combined the 3 egg whites with 2 omelets. And so I'm doing it in this bowl that has a lid. So after I've used half of this, I can just pop a lid on this and fridge the rest of it for the second omelet tomorrow. I'm starting with the onions. Pretty much every time I add a veggie, I'm going to salt a little bit to help draw out the moisture. Mushrooms. I'm going to let these cook down a little bit before I add the peppers. Okay, it's been about 4 minutes. I've been stirring this a little bit occasionally. The onions are getting nice and soft and translucent. The mushrooms have released a lot of their moisture. So let's add some peppers. In addition to adding peppers, I'm going to add pepper. Ha! Ha! And a little more salt. Bacon grease has salt in it, so I am adding a little less salt than you might think I should. I also am not the hugest fan of salt. Everybody has different tolerance levels. At the end I will taste it and add salt to taste. The cheese is also salty, so that's why I'm holding up a little bit. Okay, it's been another 5 minutes, and as you can see, everything has cooked down quite a bit. The peppers are still ever so slightly, well, not crisp, but they're not, you know, cooked down to smithereens, and that's what I wanted. And again, visualize, this is going to be for 2 omelets, so that's a pretty good amount right there. And now I'm just going to add in a generous handful of this arugula. And again, you're going to look at that and go, ah, no, there's a bunch of it. Like, no, it's going to cook down to pretty much nothing in just a minute or so. Arugula is, if you've never had it, it's similar to, and this is baby arugula too, so it's very tender, similar to spinach, and like watch, like as I am talking you will see it disappearing and disintegrating as it cooks. But yeah, like spinach, it's very nutritious for you, and also like spinach, it cooks down to practically nothing and rather quickly. But unlike spinach, arugula is extremely peppery and bitter. It's a very, very strong flavor. So usually you don't want to eat like just arugula. I mean, some people do. I don't. It has this... If you don't like Dijon mustard, and I don't like Dijon mustard, or radishes, if you don't like those flavors, you're probably not going to like arugula very much unless it's like integrated into something like this, because it has that similar twang to it. Really hard to describe, this like bitter sort of twang that radishes and Dijon mustard have, horseradish, all of that. I don't really like those things unless they're, you know, integrated into things. And again, it's like I wouldn't voluntarily have bought arugula to make this dish. I'm just using it because I happen to have it and I don't want to throw it away because that's wasteful and it's really good for you too. So see, it cooked down to almost nothing. And this is pretty much done, so I'm just gonna take it off the heat and set it aside. So as you can see, I have whipped my eggs with the whisk until they're nice and homogenized. And again, this is for 2 omelets, so I'm just gonna use half of this. I haven't salted it yet. Actually, I have to give a shout out to Epicurious. A few days ago, they uploaded a video with a chef and an amateur cook making omelets, and that's partly what gave me the idea for this, like, oh yeah, I have asparagus, I have mushrooms and other things, I could make omelets. But yeah, the chef mentioned that it's actually better to not salt your eggs in advance. Some people say it's better to salt them in advance because it breaks down the proteins. That is a tip, but for this specific application, he prefers to add the salt as you're adding it to the pan. And I just have 2 tablespoons of butter in the skillet. Another thing they talked about in that episode in Epicurious, I'm just shouting them out a bunch. So another thing that the chef talked about with omelets, and this is true, is you don't want it to be too high heat, because you generally with a French omelet you don't want any color on the omelet. Now I actually kind of like a little color on my omelet, so my omelet might have a little color on it. And that's totally because it's my personal preference and totally not because it's me messing up the omelet. But yeah, cook to what your taste is. Anyway, I'm gonna add some eggs. And see, they're not immediately solidifying up. And so you want to keep these moving around. Again, I'm not the omelet expert. In fact, this is probably what, like the 4th omelet I've ever made in my entire life. Usually, you know, I would opt for making scrambled eggs and then this stuff, and then you just eat them side by side. It's pretty much the same effect. Or I'd make a frittata, which is much easier. I actually have a video on this channel of frittata if you want to know how to make that. It's easier, I think, than an omelet. An omelet requires a lot of like Frenchy technique to it. If you really want to do it properly. Like I said, it doesn't have to be proper, it's just for you, so who cares? But the idea with an omelet is you want to keep the eggs moving so that you don't create large curds. You want like smaller curds. And even I feel like this is going a little fast for most chef's tastes. The curds are forming pretty quickly here. I'm gonna salt it right now though, I just realized I forgot to salt it. My butter was unsalted too, by the way. So anyway, I've turned the heat down to low so that this will go by a little slower and the curds will be smaller. And as you can see, when I drag the spatula, the pan is exposed. it's starting to thicken up and cook. And once it gets more solidified into like a chunk of very wet scrambled eggs basically, that's when we'll start assembling the omelet proper. Well, it's kind of like runny scrambled eggs at this point. So yeah, I think in a perfect world I would have more eggs. I probably would just use like most to all of the eggs that I whipped up. But I didn't want to eat that much food. So this omelet might wind up looking ugly. But again, it's okay. It's just me eating it. And a bunch of strangers on the internet. And you know how nice strangers on the internet are. I'm going to put the filling in there. And again, I'm only using like half of the filling, and it's probably going to spill out of the omelet. But hey, I meant to do that. And I'm going to put the cheese in there. Give it a little chance to melt. So that's like enough for 2 more omelets, so I'll make either 2 more omelets or I'll just eat the rest of that on the side with another one of my meals at some point as a side dish. Meanwhile, while my omelet is steaming a little bit, I'm going to dress my asparagus. So this stuff is starting to firm up. It's almost cooked. This is pretty much the condition you would want the omelet to be in, except ideally the cheese would be melted, but it's not quite melted. Oh well. Let's just say I meant to do that. So there's absolutely no way I'm going to be able to like fold this over properly like an omelet and put it on the plate. So off camera, because I'm going to need both hands, I'm just going to transfer it as is onto the plate, and it is what it is. You know what? This is kind of better, because now you can actually see what's in the omelet. So I'm just going to pretend that I meant to do that. And a little dollop of the fake sour cream. And you can't see it very well because of the color contrast. That kind of works. And behold, its omelette-y, vegetable-y goodness. Because I improvised this entire omelet, I actually don't know how it's going to taste. So let's have a little taste. I'm going to try to get some of the cheese and the peppers and the mushrooms. And it's impossible to get a perfect bite while I'm holding a camera awkwardly at this angle. And a little of the yogurt. Oh, that's very good. Well, I'm going to call this a success. And the asparagus. That's lovely. So I hope you add omelets to your repertoire for cleaning out the fridge. On a more personal note, my poor camera died while I was filming this episode. The opening shot, it was okay, and then the viewfinder stopped working, so I couldn't see what I was filming anymore. I was planning on kind of getting a new camera pretty soon. Anyway, I've had that one for like 7 years, and I know cameras have improved greatly since then. But I'm kind of sad because I'm going to have to learn how to use the new camera, and that's going to cost a lot of money. But thanks to the patrons of this channel and the other channel, and the fact that the channels are picking up and I got AdSense, I should be able to pay off the new camera in a month or 2 just from this channel. So thank you all for watching. You know, arugula is actually really good when you can't taste it.